The truth I'm about to share with you is one that's going to be very hard for many people to handle. And so I only want people who are critical thinkers to be watching this video. Everybody else should scroll on. Now, this is a very controversial topic, and that's why it requires critical thinkers. And the topic is hell real? And the answer is no, and I'm going to prove it to you. See, the fact of the matter is the word hell is nowhere in Scripture. It's in the newer translations, which are inaccurate. If we go back to the Old Testament, the word is Sheol, which when translated is simply the grave, the pit, or death. And if we go to the New Testament, it is known as Gehenna, or it is also known as Hades. Now, Gehenna was a fire pit where they took their trash from the city and they would throw it into the dump. And the reason that the fire never went out is because people were continually pouring garbage into the dump. And you could imagine there might have been food thrown in that dump. And so the worms that never died because they were always being continually fed by the trash that was being put into those dumps. See, the concept of the word hell didn't come around till about 500 years after Jesus' death, and it was brought up by St. Augustine. And the word hell actually comes from the Old Norse god. This is an image here. And the word hell meant to cover or to conceal, like as in with dirt. Now, hell, much like Christmas and Easter, are pagan belief systems. Matter of fact, if we go back to one of the older translations, in Psalm 139, it says, "Where can I go from your spirit? Where can I flee from your presence? If I go up to heaven, you are there. If I make my bed in the depths, you are there." The newer translations changed this to the word hell. After all, if hell were for bad people, how is it God could be in hell? I mean, after all, what would good have to do with evil? Now, when we look to the word Hades, which is in the New Testament, which can be seen in Revelation 6:8, 1 Corinthians 15:55, Luke 16:23, this comes from Greek mythology. Hades, after all, was the brother of Zeus, and Hades was known as the god of the underworld. Hades is also associated with Pluto in astrology, known as the planet of death and transformation. Did you ever stop to ask yourself why Greek mythology was in the scriptures? So it was Gehenna and Hades in the New Testament and Sheol in the Old Testament. And that was a place where all the dead would go regardless of their status in life. The grave, the pit, the dirt. Now, as I said, it was St. Augustine who was the biggest promoter of hell, and he was a religious bigot and a hate monger. And through the use of his power and violence, he promoted the idea of hell. It was a form of control and instilled fear in the people. This concept was then carried into the Catholic Christian schools and churches to continue to enforce this idea of hell because it was quite profitable. It gave them immense power and money in their pockets. Now, the scripture says that perfect love drives out all fear, and so it makes me wonder why people want to cling to the theory of hell. After all, if an angel or a demon showed up in your room, you couldn't take a blowtorch to it and burn it, no more than your own spirit could burn in hell. You can't burn a spirit. Secondly, it is the Creator who's created the laws of the universe, and that says that fire needs a fuel source, and there is no fuel source with a spirit. If God put you here with a purpose, and he knows everything, he knows the past, the present, and the future, and he knew you wouldn't choose Jesus, then you mean to tell me he sent you here just to watch you burn in a flame anyway? I mean, that would make him a very vindictive God. That in itself would make him evil. The people through the church and the indoctrination in how the scripture has been taught to them has kept them in a fear that won't even allow them to question these sorts of things. But when you become a critical thinker and you begin to dive deep into this, you'll realize hell was just a lie that was used to control and manipulate the masses. And it's still being used today to keep you from coming into your own power. Because fear is one of the greatest control mechanisms ever used on humanity. And one surefire way to know whether or not you're still under that indoctrination is if this message bothered you. Just remember, critical thinkers ask questions and they investigate. They don't just blindly believe what they've been told or what their parents have been told or all the generations before them. And with that, I hope that you will investigate and look into this for yourself. Because the only fire that the creator of this universe is bringing down us is the refiner's fire, the one that allows us to grow through trials.